Hi, so now we're going to dive into chapter 4 here. Okay. The first sentence hopefully is pretty straightforward. Okay. Just want to make sure that you realize that it's not really a problem for a perfect passive and indicative to have a form of sum split from its participle by so much. Don't let it bother you. Okay. The noun indicium, maybe we might translate that kind of in our modern parlance as something like a leak, like an information leak. Okay, so this matter, namely this conspiracy to have an organized series of seizures of kingship, this matter was divulged, okay, was announced to the Helvetii through a leak, per indicium. Okay, period. Now, coegerent. Now we're faced with a plural verb. Okay. Now the only kind of thing that's going to make sense is if you have to understand the Helvetii now as nominative subject, as the subject of coegerent. Okay, so they compelled Orgetorix to what? Dicere causam, to plead his case. Ex vinculis, we would say in chains or from chains. Latin literally would say out of chains. Okay. Moribus suis. Okay, this is from the noun mos. Okay, mos moris, masculine, which means custom. Okay, and this use of the ablative is kind of a, maybe we haven't seen this before, this is an ablative of standard. Some people call this a kind of a category of ablative of manner. I think it's actually different. Okay, so in accordance with their customs, or in accord with their customs, they compelled Orgetorix to plead his case in chains. Okay. This would not have been done to an ancient Roman. A Roman citizen would not have pled their case in chains. That would have been prejudicial. Okay. Typically, also, you would have had someone plead a case for you, your patronus, or some other close friend, maybe who owed you a favor, would plead your case on your behalf. Okay. The next section is a little bit tricky. It's kind of dense. Okay. We have this impersonal verb apportebat, the imperfect of apportet. Again, the most normal construction for apportet is to have a subject accusative and infinitive construction. It basically looks like an indirect statement. Okay, so we would probably translate the subject accusative as our subject of the verb is supposed to, or was supposed to, or should. Okay. So poinom is your subject accusative. So it might work for us to say a punishment was supposed to follow. Okay. Now, damnatum is a masculine accusative participle. Him, if convicted. Okay. Typically, Latin does not modify personal pronouns with participles. It just has the participle by itself. Okay, and you have to kind of understand the personal pronoun. So damnatum is going to mean him, if convicted. Now we have this ut clause. This is an indirect command. And really what's going on here is, as often with indirect commands, it's going to be in apposition to a noun. Here it's going to be in apposition to poinom. So maybe a better translation might be something like this. A punishment, or the punishment, namely that, and again the appositive, that he be burned with fire, was supposed to follow him if convicted. Okay? So remember from back last year, the Celts like their fires. Light them up, baby. Okay, so that was going to be his punishment. If he got convicted of whatever kind of the Celtic idea of treason was, he was going to be burned alive. Okay. So one thing I also want to say, this igni, this ablative, okay, quite frequently in Republican Latin, so at this period of time, even in early imperial, so as we will see in Virgil, sometimes for masculine and feminine I stem nouns, you will get an I instead of the expected E that we learned in our textbook. Okay, so igni there is ablative of means or instrument. Okay, so again that part is going to be, a penalty was supposed to follow him if convicted. The penalty, namely that he be burned with fire. Okay. Also, just want to point out that to a Roman, Roman citizens would not have been killed with this kind of punishment. It would have Good chance it would have been exile, okay, interdiction from fire and water. They would have to get out of Italy, okay. Maybe a swift punishment, a capital punishment of something like beheading, but nothing this kind of dramatic or painful. This is very different from how a Roman, so both in terms of procedure and in penalty, the Celtic practice is very different from what a Roman would have seen in Rome, if you're a Roman citizen at least.